And welcome everybody to Off the Bench with Esteban Velez, our first episode here today. I'm your host, Esteban Velez. And guys, like I said, we're really excited for this episode. First one ever here at Culver-Stockton College. So for this big episode, we had to bring in a very, very big guest. Legit one of the best basketball players here at Culver-Stockton College. And his name is Seth Larson. Seth joining me today. He is a junior out of Columbia, Missouri, men's basketball team. So, Seth, how are we doing today?
Good. Happy to be here, get to talk with you guys for a little bit, go back and forth, talk about basketball and whatnot. So, happy to be here.
That's great to hear. Before we start off, first, I want to congratulate you on getting Primo Student Athlete of the Month for December. That came out yesterday. So, first of all, congratulations on that. How are you feeling about that?
Thank you. Yeah, I mean, it's a blessing, it's kind of cool to win that, being in college, you're a student athlete, first being a student, then an athlete. So, you got to get your jobs done off the court and as well on the court. So it's really an honor to be winning that award.
And getting right to it with your season so far, let's talk a little bit about last season. Not exactly the ideal season for you guys in terms of how everything turned out. This season, however, a big change coming in, a new coach, however. How has the dynamic of the team changed from last season to this one so far?
Yeah, starting off with getting a new coach, you don't really know what to expect, but it's a fresh start. I think it was a restart for our locker room as a team. Just really you could get the vibe that we all kind of felt refreshed getting a new coach. There's you don't know really what to expect, so it's kind of keeps you on your toes, and it's just good to restart. Having a rough last two seasons as my freshman and sophomore year, and just being able to have a new coach and kind of get a fresh restart, and yeah.
So before last school year ended, you guys already knew who your coach was going to be. You knew kind of what to expect. You had the chance to meet him before you guys went off for break. It was a long break and a long off season for you guys. How was it preparing for that and, again, preparing for a new coach?
Yeah, so like you said, we got to meet Coach Hobbs later on in the last couple of weeks of last semester, so last year, and just got to feel out what type of guy he was, what he was about, and how he's going to coach, and what type of guy he's just really going to be on and off the court. Preparation-wise, in the off-season, the summer, for me personally, just getting in the gym maybe twice a day for 5 or 6 days of the week was really important to me. Just being able to get a ball in my hand and be able to work out, get shots up, and just, better myself and better my game, just getting ready for a big upcoming season for my junior year. And also just getting into the weight room, being able to better my body, to keep myself healthy and get stronger.
In terms of coaching and just the team dynamic, if you had to pick one thing that stood out and that changed the most from last season to this one, what would that be?
I think it would have to be commitment. We got a new guy coming in, new coach coming in. No one really knows what to expect, but I really think Coach Hobbs came in and really set the tone for us and really wanted to change the culture right away. And I think commitment was a really big part of that, being able just to commit 100% of you to our team, to this basketball program for a whole season, and I really think that was a big part of it.
Now talking about you personally as a player, if you had to choose one thing, one part of your game that has changed the most from last season to this one, what would you say it'd be?
I'd have to go with the ability to catch and shoot, especially from beyond the range, like 3-point. I struggled with that my freshman year. And sophomore year it was okay, but it wasn't where I wanted it to be. And teams really figured out how to guard me, closing out short to me, making me put the ball on the floor and really predictable. So being able to add that catch and shoot ability to my game really has opened up my total offensive side, and just makes a lot more things easier for me.
This season, when the preseason rankings came out, you guys were picked to finish last in conference play. How did you guys take that? What was the message sent to you guys, and how did you guys want to decide to prove the conference wrong and do as great as you are doing right now?
Yeah, we got those rankings in the beginning of the year, and we didn't take them too lightly. Obviously, you got to go off of our previous seasons, and we get that. But, Coach Hobbs came in and really changed our culture and showed us that ranking, and it really kind of, teed us off a little bit in the wrong way. And we really started to create a underdog mentality, really, because no one thinks Culver-Stockton's going to win. No one, no team comes into our home or us going to their game or their court thinking they're going to lose to us, and it really just disrespects what we're about and what we are as a program. And we're doing better this season. We're not there where we want to be yet, but we're making progress. We're getting better, and we just like to keep that chip on our shoulder as we go into the rest of the season.
And you kind of talked about it a little bit there. You said about teams coming in here to play and how dominant you guys need to be at home. So far this season, you guys have done that. You've only lost 2 games at home. Those 2 losses, one of them you were injured, weren't able to play, and then the other one, a key figure for you guys, was also injured. What makes you guys so dominant here at home?
I think, honestly, just being at home and having our crowd. We always have a strong home crowd advantage playing here, and just playing off of their momentum and being able to produce that into our game is really vital for us. Missing a couple games here and there, I get that, but I really think playing at home, you got to keep that to a standard, and you got to win at home to be a good team, and just keeping that the standard of winning home. We own our court. We don't have anybody that comes in here and beats us is really what keeps us going, and I think playing off of the crowd really kicks us up into a higher gear too.
Before season started, was that exactly what you were expecting? Is that what you thought would happen? Did you think you guys would be so dominant at home and get really big wins on the road as well? Or was it just a total surprise for you?
I kind of expected it. We've had some shootouts in the last couple of years at home against really good teams, and we're able to beat some really good teams at home. And just shout out to our students and our town, showing out to games, getting in there, packing the stands, making it loud. Harder for opposing teams to come in and play, and just feeding off of their vibe and everything is really helpful. And I kind of expected us to be able to win this much at home.
Talking now about Christmas break, you guys ended or began the break on a really high note, finishing off that first half of the season kind of really, really well. Were you worried at all that the break was going to tone you guys' momentum down and just not do you guys any favor afterwards?
Just a little bit, not being able to be with the team for that many days. We had a longer break than usual. We had 10 days, and not being able to practice with your guys for 10 days, and that's always going to come into play. Coming back, we might be a little bit more sloppy because we're just trying to get back into things. But I also, on the other hand, I know our guys were getting in the gym, getting a ball in their hand, weightlifting, over the break. So I think it was a good restart, a good refresh. Everybody needs a break, and it was good to have that 10 days off for even for people to heal up, get some rest. But yeah, there was a little break there where I thought, maybe this isn't the best for us just because we're going to be separated for that long.
Talking now a little bit about your stats this season so far. Taking a look here, you're averaging 13.1 points per game, 6.3 rebounds per game, and on top of that, you're shooting 45% from the field, 41% from 3, and the free throw range is at 75 or 77% right now. When you look at those stats, does that describe Seth Larson? Are you happy with your performance so far, even though we know there's more to prove?
They're decent stats. I'm not necessarily happy about them. I think I could put up another 4 or 5 points in my points per game. And, being able to rebound is pretty important to win. And I think I could honestly chip that up another rebound a game. I would like my free throw percentage to be higher. I know last year I was top 4 in our conference for free throw percentage, so I took a little dip this season. But I know myself, and I know what I'm capable of, and I really do think I should be improving throughout the season. It's been a little rocky the beginning of this season, just being out, not being able to get into a flow. So being back right now, healthy, I think I'll be able to kick it into another gear.
If you had to describe your playing style this season and as a whole throughout your entire career, what would you describe it as?
I'd like to describe it, fundamental. I'm not the flashiest player. I don't do the flashiest moves. I'm not the quickest, but I am pretty fundamental, and I'm proud of that. Being fundamental, I'm just able to get the job done. It might not look the prettiest, but I am able to perform at a high level, and yeah.
When we talk about you as a player again, what is one aspect in your game that you think goes unnoticed most of the time?
I'd say my passing. I think I am very capable of making good passes throughout the game, and even some flashier passes. I am able to sling that rock, I have made some really good passes in the past, but I think the one part of my game that goes overlooked is my passing.
I got two more for you. First of all, one aspect of your game you want to improve. I think you kind of touched on it instead of free throws. Would that be the one you want to improve the most?
It's one of them. It's definitely, I know what I'm capable of. Going back to last year, like I said, I was shooting almost 90% from the free throw line. I know what I'm capable of. I'd say probably my inside game, probably mostly with my left hand, being able to finish over guys with my left hand and maybe spin back and finish with my left. But mostly, yeah, one aspect I would like to keep improving on would be working inside, posting up, reverse pivots, probably playing from like the elbow, and just that would open up my game a whole lot more and being able to work myself in to out, so beyond the 3-point line later out.
And lastly, before we let you go, if you had to name one struggle that you've overcome this season, whether it be with your team or your individually, what would you say that would be?
One struggle, I'd say next shot mentality. In my past, even in high school, my freshman year mostly of college, I was struggling with, next play mentality. If I made a mistake, turned the ball over, made a bad pass, maybe missed a shot, that'd kind of get in my head, and I wouldn't be able to leave that play in the past. The basketball is a really fast-paced game. You got to be able to keep up, and you can't keep thinking about something that happened 2 minutes ago because you won't be able to play to your standard. And so one thing I overcame is being able to have that next shot, next play mentality and be able to keep up with the game and not really focus on what's happening in the past, but what's happening in the present and even future.
Yep, totally get that. Whenever I was playing college soccer throughout my entire career, I kind of had the same issue. You make a mistake here, make a mistake there, and then you just kind of quickly refocus, just not worry about that anymore. There's nothing you can do. So I totally get where you're coming from, Seth.
Yeah.
Seth, it's been a pleasure having you along. Thank you very much for joining us. We wish you the best in the rest of the season, and go Wildcats.
Yep, thank you guys. Go Cats.
Welcome back, guys. First part of the podcast already finished. It was a pleasure getting to speak with Seth Larson. Second part of the podcast, joining me today, Remington Yates. We'll be talking in getting a deeper look about sports in general, hot topics going on. More specifically in this one, we'll be looking at some baseball, some Big Ten basketball action. So, Rem, it's a pleasure to have you here.
It's a pleasure to be on here as well. It's been a while since I've done a podcast, so I'm glad to be here. Yeah, we got some interesting topics coming up today, so it's going to get crazy here soon. We got spring sports coming up in college and everything. It's going to get crazy for the pod.
Yeah, already pretty cool with the Big Ten basketball. I don't know if you're a big basketball fan. I really love it, especially the Big Ten. Big Ten's been crazy this season.
I'm an SEC guy. I'm a Mizzou guy through and through. I mean, we did really good in the football season. Basketball, we're not doing so hot this year. We did pretty hot last year, if I remember correctly. So we'll see how we do to finish out the year. But yeah, basketball's not my strongest suit, but I'm knowledgeable enough in it.
Yeah, I kind of had my hopes up for Mizzou basketball. Saw the first couple games and was like, okay, we might do something this season. Then conference play came around, and well, it's back to Mizzou basketball.
Yeah.
But as you said, football was really good for them, so we're excited to see what they're next season for football is going to do. Some 4-star, 5-star recruits already coming in for them.
And I mean, we lose some pretty big pieces. Our running back, he's committing, I'm pretty sure, for the draft. And then we got the thicker kicker. He's definitely going to go in the draft. Somebody does, if you're having punting, kicking troubles, that's your man right there.
What was it, 65 yards?
65 yards plus, I think. Yep. It just right down the middle. Could not have been any more perfect that day. So he's insane. He's won us way too many games this season. We should not have been in those situations. But, yeah, he's insane.
That's been unbelievable. I watched the Cotton Bowl game for them as well. I was back home for Christmas break.
Yeah.
Got really excited. Really good game against Ohio State.
I was struggling all night to keep watching. I was like, there's just some way we're going to fail. And then all of a sudden we just started scoring. I was just like, oh, my gosh, we finally found what we needed to beat Ohio State. Here we go.
If I remember correctly, they hadn't scored until the fourth quarter.
Ohio State scored early, and then just from there on it was just Mizzou all day.
Yeah,
the running back just finally able to break through. He just gained yards all day and everything. But yeah, it's going to be exciting to see what we get for next year. We get some big defensive pieces. Mizzou's always been a defensive powerhouse in my opinion, especially for football and everything. There's a lot of good defensive pieces that come out, and then there's one quarterback in the NFL right now for Mizzou, but he's stuck at backup right now. But Drew Lock on Seattle. I always thought he'd be a solid quarterback, but nobody just sees it in him. So,
speaking of Mizzou, I'm also excited for the baseball season coming up in the spring. Last season didn't go too well for them, but I am expecting some really
have a decent season. But last year, I don't know what was going on last year. But I try and follow it, but it's like last year I was still here as a student. And I'm just like, oh, man, I got so much to focus on. I got lacrosse. I got baseball. I got softball. I'm focusing on all this. I didn't get to watch as many games as I should have.
Yeah, I'm excited for their baseball season this time around. We'll see what they can do over there. Yeah. Speaking of baseball, let's take a look at MLB right now. Hot take that came out today. It's been a little rumor these past couple days. JD Martinez still doesn't have a team. And there are a couple teams interested in signing him. The Mets. A few, especially the Mets, Tigers, and Blue Jays are the contenders for him right now. How do you think that'll go, Rem?
See, Tigers, Blue Jays, those are small market teams kind of ordeal. Blue Jays are kind of somewhere in the middle there. Toronto's a good population, loyal fans. I'm a big hockey guy, and the Maple Leafs, just big following out of their fan base. Toronto are diehard, fans for their sports teams and everything. But, just being a small market team still, though, it doesn't help, especially for a guy like JD Martinez when you really want to go for him. The Mets, I think, have the money, but they just don't want to give it to him because I feel like a lot of these teams are worried about production. Some of the other teams I think I've seen in there were the Angels. They're looking to replace Shohei, especially for the DH position.
That one I don't think it'll go through. I don't think JD Martinez will want to go to Los Angeles.
See, me anymore, if I was a baseball player, professional baseball player, and I got an offer from the Angels, I'm like, why would I want to waste my career in Los Angeles for the Angels? They wasted Mike Trout's most of Mike Trout's career there, and even Albert Pujols' late career. Dude couldn't go back to the World Series whatsoever. He only won 2, and that was with the Cardinals, and it's just the Angels are just, they're not a good place to go for a lot of players. But I feel like one day they'll win a World Series. But
it'll take some time.
They need to really make some pushes around and make some changes, especially in ownership, I feel.
Here's the thing. JD Martinez doesn't have too many years of baseball left in him.
Yeah, no.
Unpopular opinion, I think he's going to go to the Detroit Tigers. Just so he could retire with them. He's had a rich history with them. They love him over there at Comerica Park. If I were him, if the money's there, if everything else is there, if he's happy with Comerica Park, I would go to Detroit, retire with a good fan base that loves you, and I wouldn't be surprised if that's what he does after all.
Yeah, definitely Detroit. Blue Jays, because we're about to go into that even a little bit more, but the Blue Jays making a lot of big moves. If you want to try and go for one last ring, try one last chance at it, one last go. Toronto's looking like the team. Looks like last year their whole division and everything, just the Yankees completely just lost it, and the Blue Jays were in there. It was a whole conversation who's going to win this one? Because the Yankees are not in it whatsoever, and it was interesting to watch.
And the Blue Jays' strong suit last season was their pitching.
Yeah,
just outstanding pitching. Offensively they could have done better. defensively it was pretty good.
And
but
JD Martinez might be that guy.
Yep.
He might be the guy that pushes not just himself, but everyone around him. You get those guys that come in, are a big veteran, and just comes in and changes that locker room up and is like, hey, this is what you guys need to be doing. This is where you need to be swinging and everything. I mean, he's a solid hitter and everything, and he's got to be, one of those locker room guys I feel like can come in and change up the Blue Jays.
Let's say he does go to Toronto. Would you have him as your DH? And that's it?
Absolutely.
Yep.
I mean, there is also the worry because, like you said, he doesn't have that many seasons left in him. You got to worry about the wear and tear on his body. So maybe not every, maybe put him in the field if you're feeling like he's good in the field maybe one day. But other than that, keep him in that DH position, switch him out every now and then, give him some rest. Other than that, he's definitely going to be one of your guys that will be big in hitting.
And you kind of talked about it a little bit. Let's get in deeper into the Blue Jays. As you said, they've had a busy offseason, or at least they've tried having a busy offseason. They tried signing Juan Soto. That one obviously didn't work out. He's going to the Yankees now. They tried for Bellinger. Bellinger went to the Cubs, so, didn't get an outfielder there. That's already 2 outfielders. Shohei Ohtani, of course, every team wanted to get Shohei Ohtani. The Blue Jays were in the mix for him. Didn't quite get him either.
Everybody. I remember we were working a basketball game together that day when he announced he was going to the Dodgers, and I was livid. I was like, oh, come on. And literally, you're just going up the road?
I didn't expect that. I did not
either.
Yeah.
We'll see how he does. The Dodgers have a lot of money, so they've got a lot of cap space to work with. But, I mean, Shohei Ohtani is a good player. But can the rest of the Dodgers team support and work with him enough? It's going to be interesting to see. I mean, definitely, I feel like there was more reasons. One of the reasons I thought about him staying in Los Angeles was family. California is a very big area for Japanese immigrants or Asian immigrants just in general. And so, he probably has a lot of family in California and such. So that's probably one of the biggest reasons he wanted to stay in California, I feel, especially Los Angeles.
And as a part of his contract, I don't know if it's happened before. I've never seen it happen before until I heard about this. In his contract, there were 3 players that he said were untradeable if he were to sign with the Dodgers and go play with them. So they didn't list names. We don't know who they are, but they're in the contract. There's 3 certain players that they just can't move right now.
Well, I can tell you this. If the Dodgers start trading people, we know who it isn't. So
Right.
But yeah, no, Blue Jays definitely were trying to go for him, but the Dodgers just had the money to be able to do it. So it's going to be interesting to see what the Blue Jays can do to make up for, a lot of these misses. They're trying hard. They're making a lot of moves. That's why I said with JD Martinez, with what they're trying to do, I think you want to go there because I feel like if he goes there and he can drag more there with that, a lot of guys are going to be looking going, they got JD Martinez. This could be the place I can go win a ring.
Right.
This is the place I can go win a pennant. And a lot of guys might go there if they get JD Martinez.
And Yamamoto, a rising star in the MLB, it's going to be his first season now. The Blue Jays were looking to sign him as well. And, the Dodgers took him. So, if you're the Blue Jays, you're not really happy with the Dodgers right now.
Yeah.
2 key stars that you wanted to sign are going to the same team. When they play each other, Dodgers and Blue Jays, the Blue Jays, I should say, will definitely have something to prove.
Yeah, I mean, the fans are going to lose it if they win against the Dodgers. If they win most of the games against the Dodgers, they'll say, who needed Ohtani? Who needed Yamamoto? We've got what we need here. And so if they pull off the wins, just get ready on social media. It's going to get crazy on there.
Yeah, it's definitely for bragging rights that game. If the Blue Jays win, it's going to be, as you said, pretty hectic. Someone that the Dodgers haven't signed yet and the Blue Jays really want is lefty pitcher Blake Snell. Blue Jays really want him. They're really trying to push out there for him. The money just isn't there right now. Snell asking for too much. Blue Jays don't want to necessarily spend that much. I believe Snell right now is asking for $240 million. He is a Cy Young. He's a reigning Cy Young right now. So if you're the Blue Jays, do you spend that money? Do you take a little risk and see if, his asking goes down a little bit, or do you just let the Dodgers take him again?
Man, that is a tough one because you're making all these moves. You're trying to get what you need. You're really trying to basically pull the trigger on this and go to a World Series. And you don't want to lose a guy like Snell. Snell is a solid lefty, and so losing him would be huge. And again, they're still trying for JD Martinez. That's the guy they need on offense. But to really bolster their pitching this year, Snell would definitely be that guy. I think you wait it out just a little bit, not too long, because the Dodgers will sweep them up. Because I'm sure the Dodgers, they're also waiting on like the price to drop a little bit too, because they spent quite a bit of money already this season. You know, they spent it on Yamamoto, Ohtani. They spent a lot on Ohtani, and especially for years to come. And so, you know, the Dodgers might not be as, you know, pushing for Snell, but they'll probably still want him. And if they get the chance to, they'll take him. So Blue Jays, they might have to jump on it.
Here's the thing. If you're the Blue Jays, do you really need Snell? I mean, last season, their pitching was ranked 6th in wins above replacement. Your pitching was the best. Do you really need to add another Cy Young? And, you know, I feel like if you're them, you just instead go and push for more offense, which is, you know, kind of what you missed. So how important is it to really add Snell to the roster?
I mean, I'd have to look and see what they lost in their bullpen and overall. Like, not just the bullpen, but the starting rotation and everything like that. You know, see what they lost in pitching from last year. And if they've lost enough, then maybe Snell would be that guy that can help replace. And I don't know what their development looks like as well than the minors down in the AAA and all that stuff. But if they've got some solid guys that can call up and be able to replace a lot of the guys that they lost and then have Snell be a solid guy to really be in there, then yeah, they should really go for it. But other than that, yeah, they really need to focus on offense. But, you know, just kind of they got to look at what they've lost and what they need to make up for it.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see what they finally go for. If they get Snell, if they get JD Martinez, Blue Jays definitely making a push and trying to get into playoffs this upcoming season. Shifting now a little bit to Big Ten basketball. As I said, I'm a Big Ten basketball fan, Rem. I know you're not really into basketball as much.
Yeah.
I'm going to try my best to get you into it, especially the Big Ten. It's been crazy. And part of that craziness happened yesterday. Number 11 ranked Wisconsin Badgers taking on Penn State. Penn State not ranked. Penn State not one of the favorites for Big Ten basketball. And a big upset there at Penn State. They were able to win that game 87-83. So the Badgers were the only undefeated team in the Big Ten. They just lost their first game. If you're the Badgers, how do you regroup and how do you go back to your next game and try and figure things out after a big loss to Penn State?
Yeah, man. I mean, that's a big loss, especially to Penn State, who's not always been a very solid basketball program. They can be in the conversation, but they've just never been that solid to me, in my opinion. But Penn State fans, man, they get in your head. And I think that's one of the big things that really affected the Badgers, because Penn State, they just get loud and rowdy, and they will find any way to get in your head. And that was just like, I watched the highlights for that game and everything, and they just trailed behind Penn State for most of the part. It wasn't until the second half, late in the second half, that Wisconsin finally pulled the lead, but then they just fouled, and just Penn State would not let up whatsoever. So to regroup and to get back to, they're going to go against Indiana, just leave that game behind you entirely. Forget everything that game was. Forget the Penn State fans and just move on to Indiana and just make it an absolute dog walk of a game. Just really show like, hey, we're still top dog around here. Just because they can get in our heads doesn't mean we're not great at basketball. You know, every great team loses eventually to, you know, a really bad team. How many times have we watched the Patriots lose to the Dolphins, and the Dolphins were really not the best team that they ever faced? You know, it's just one of those things that happens. You get an upset like this. You know, I've seen it many times here at Culver. You know, I've called buzzer beaters. We're beating, you know, Peru State, and Peru's always been one of our tougher opponents, and we're beating them buzzer beater, and it's just like, holy cow, how could this happen? Are they frauds? Now, Peru State's still a top-notch basketball program in the heart and in the NAIA. It's just, you know, one bad game.
Even for men's basketball this season, they beat CMU, a top-ranked team. They were receiving votes at the moment, and our men's basketball team was able to pull up the upset. A big game for them, so that's, you know, surprising as well.
That game was a lot. I called that game. Me and Gilly called that game, and it was so much fun. That was such a fun weekend. It was just so weird. You know, I've done this for 4 years, calling games and everything. And the Thanksgiving, Christmas games, are just weird atmosphere. 'Cause you work the games where it's packed. You got a loud, rowdy crowd there for the Joe Charles Fieldhouse. You work a Thanksgiving Christmas game, it's
There's no one.
Nothing but parents.
Yep.
And you're just sitting there just like, holy cow, how can we have any momentum whatsoever without the crowd behind us? The parents love them to death. They work their hardest during Christmas and Thanksgiving to really get those teams to rally. And they got them to do it this year. Both teams did, and beating CMU. So it was definitely an experience.
You know, I've never had the chance to call a Christmas break or Thanksgiving break or even spring break, any type of break game. I usually, try and leave campus for that. You've been calling them, as you said. Does it usually feel like you're on the road? Because you don't really have the home momentum, home field advantage.
I wouldn't even say that. It's just because on the road you still have the opposition crowd to work off of and stuff. Like, they could be hazing you and stuff like that, and then you put up, 30 points or whatever on the night, just go crazy, and then you can start going off that crowd. It's like, yeah, look at that, look how many points I got. At that crowd issue, there's nothing. The visiting crowd's got nothing to work on. The home team doesn't have nothing. They just got nothing. It's just, this is the Joe Charles Fieldhouse?
Right.
Yeah. It's
So,
eerie.
Here's the thing. If you're a player, would you prefer playing on the road or do you prefer just playing during one of those breaks? Which one feels like a better atmosphere for you?
Oh, I wouldn't even know. For me, I love a crowd noise. I love when the crowd gets rowdy. I've worked so many games where I'm just sitting there and I'll be working production or commentary for a Culver basketball game, and the crow's nest just starts shaking, and I'm just like, this thing is going to fall. But oh my gosh, is the hype just real? I take home like a packed Joe Charles Fieldhouse any day of the week.
Right. And as we said, that momentum, that energy was definitely something that helped Penn State yesterday. They were able to take advantage of their home court momentum yesterday. Something Wisconsin Badger head coach said after the game was that his defense was finally exposed for pretty much the first time this season. Hearing that, it lets you know that he's not really too fond of his defense. He knows there are some struggles going on. And, well, he said that finally a team was able to take advantage of them.
Yeah, it's bad when a coach admits that. And so he's definitely, at practice, he's got to really work on that, find out who's working really good defensive-wise and everything. You've got your guys that are offensively stronger, but they're not defensively strong. And so, like, we see it at Culver, there's, like, especially when we get late into a game, there's timeouts and all that being called almost every single time there's a score, basically. And you're seeing them make the rotations constantly, just like, hey, I need my defensive guys in. Hey, now we get to get the offensive guys in. And it's just constantly happening. I've seen it where, Coach Aaron Hill, he puts out some of his smaller guys out there, and they're putting up threes and, whatever. And then he gets put on the defensive side of the ball. He's like, okay, Kaiser, Larson, my big guys, I need you guys out there. Get me the ball. That's all I need is just get me the ball, and we've got this. And it's always, defensive side of the ball is where you need to be strong, though, especially when it comes to late in the game. Because if you get steals and you get blocks, you're winning that game, especially at the end.
Staying now here with the Big Ten basketball. Rem, were you able to watch the Illinois-Maryland game this past weekend?
I was not. I mean, I don't really get, because I kind of just stay in my bedroom when I'm at home. And so I don't get, all the channels and everything. I just only get local stuff, so I don't get to watch a lot of that stuff. I know ESPN Plus is a thing, but, I'm a just graduated college student, so I ain't really got the money for that. I'm trying to pay bills and everything now. And so it's just, not getting to watch that game was a bit of an upset for me, but I heard it was pretty interesting. Yeah,
if you're an Illini fan, it's a good thing you didn't watch because, well, they played at home at Urbana-Champaign, and Illini just didn't show up this time. Maryland came in on the road against a really tough team. The Illini were ranked 11th at the time. And actually, was it 11th or 10th? One or two. At the time, now they're ranked 14th.
Yeah.
And, Maryland just had their way with them the entire game. I watched almost the entire first half. It wasn't pretty for Illinois. It wasn't what you usually see out of Illinois basketball. And a bit surprising for Maryland as well. You got to give it to them. They showed up against a really tough team, a tough atmosphere to play at, and they did your job that night.
Yeah, no, I mean, like I said earlier, it's just sometimes you have those bad games where it's like, a team you shouldn't be losing against, you're losing against, and some of that also you can blame on, overconfidence. Like sometimes you come in way too overconfident. We've seen this last year here at Culver as well. Like, I'm sorry to keep talking about Culver and referencing it, but it's like it's stuff I experience here. I can apply to what's going on out there. CMU, nationally ranked CMU, came here to play us in baseball. They thought they were going to sweep us. We took the series 3-1.
Mm-hmm.
I remember I was leaving, going to my car, and I just heard their coach screaming at them. I'm like, oh, it was that kind of day. Like, you all thought you were coming in and just sweeping us. And no, you guys got 3-1. And even I think they had to fight for that one game they did beat us.
It was a close one, yeah.
And it's just like, sometimes that happens. You just have those bad games, and that happens. Now
that you mentioned CMU again, just made me realize, Culver, as of late, has had its way against CMU. Baseball last season, I think's off. Basketball, women's and men's this season. So,
one of the ones we can't beat them in, it seems, is soccer. Soccer, we struggle.
Soccer, it was,
CMU soccer is always solid. Like, I always if I could bet on NAIA college, I'm betting CMU to make it to the championship.
Here's the thing. Surprisingly, for the men's squad, for CMU, they weren't that dominant this season.
Yeah, no, they weren't. They just, I don't think they were that strong in recruiting this year, maybe,
They had a new coach as well.
Yeah.
Kind of, yeah.
So that really hurts too. You lose your coach, and I don't know where their old coach went to, but I'm pretty sure if I looked, he probably went to a different division or something like that.
Actually, surprisingly, he went to NAIA school. So setting the NAIA.
A lot of those kids transferred with him. They heard he was leaving. They said, "We're coming with you," and so. It happens. When coaches leave, they're just like, "Oh yeah, let's just move with you." We're kind of, I don't want to leave you. And some of those kids, they had to stay because they're like, "Well, my major is here. That school doesn't offer that major." And I've seen that so many times. Kids are like, "I want to go for this coach, but I can't. My education is here." So.
And the ones that moved with him are, should be definitely having the time of their life because they're in Florida right now.
Yeah.
His new school is in Florida. So, if you're playing with them at CMU and you find out your coach is moving to Florida, you kind of don't really think about it too much.
Yeah, they're sitting down there laughing at all of us up here. We were in like negative 5-degree weather up here, just snow piled up, and they're down there in warm Florida. It's crazy, yeah. Actually, what's funny is, like, I was looking today. I was like, man, Florida, like, has just been on the rise as of late in a lot of sports. It seems like Kaiser won their first ever national championship in football, and they're the first Florida team in the NAIA to do it. And you had, of course, Florida State. A lot of people said, like, oh, they were frauds. They got destroyed by Michigan. Yeah, or they got destroyed by Georgia. I'm like, yeah, because it's Georgia. Georgia's one of the top schools in the nation. The only reason they weren't in the championship team is because they lost to Alabama. That was it. And so, like, they were going to get destroyed in that game. I knew it. I have a 50-50 opinion on whether they should have been in the Final Four. It's going to get expanded next year, so if they just play well like they did this year, especially on their third-string quarterback, like, just play as good as you were, and you'll be back, and you're going to be in it, and you can pull some upsets. It's interesting to see. Like, Florida's been on a bit of a rise as of late in sports, it seems like.
Yeah, and I'm excited for the extension of the playoffs for football. It's going to be a 12-team playoff, isn't it?
Yeah.
Is it 10 or 12? It's one or the other, and I believe it's 12.
I think it's 12.
I think it's 12, yep.
And what's interesting is, people are, like, making a big deal out of this, and I'm like, the NAIA's had, like, I don't know how many the NAIA have, but, like, they've had it since when was it? I just looked today, the 70s, I think, is when they expanded their playoff platform. I'm like, we've had this since this long ago, and everyone's making a big deal because Division I's finally doing it, and I'm like,
yeah,
okay, yeah. I've kind of just more enjoyed the NAIA. I think there's talent here, just nobody really looks here. They don't really go digging through here and everything.
Right. And the exposure that, the D1 schools get.
Yeah, because they got all the TV deals and everything.
Yep.
It's just, that doesn't really help, especially D2, D3, NAIA, or JUCO. There's talent in every level of play. They just don't get the exposure like D1 does. And also, a lot of them D1 schools, they just have the money to do whatever they want, really. They'll sit there and they'll go get whoever. Like, hey, come to this school. Okay, yeah, you're one of the top football programs in the country, so... but a lot of guys, they try and challenge themselves. They'll go to smaller schools and everything, and they're like, I want to prove myself. I want to win a championship here with this team that, isn't known for football. And that's where you get a lot of those guys that, guys in TCU are getting drafted in the NFL because they're like, I want to challenge myself. I want to be one of the best. And they go and prove themselves.
And going back now to the alumni and their struggles, Coleman Hawkins, star for the alumni, or for the alumni. He'll be looking to get into the draft. He's been, top pick to go into the NBA draft. However, this last game just struggled offensively, defensively especially. When we look at the offensive numbers, they don't really look too bad. 8 points, 7 rebounds, 2 blocks, 1 assist, 1 steal. That's not terrible. Now, when we look at the percentage and the fouls, he committed 5 fouls in the entire game, went 2 for 6 from the field, and 0 for 4 from behind the arc. That's not really common from him. And then defensively, he was just not there all night. He was just getting dominated by Maryland.
Yeah, I mean, again, it goes back to that one bad game. Back to Culver here, I've watched Jalen Blaze literally tie a record one night, and I think it was 47 points in a single game. And next game, he just wasn't putting up them numbers. He was putting up maybe half that, a little less than that, I think. But Jalen Blaze was always just a solid ball player. He just had one really good night, and as compared to a lot of his other nights where he's good. And the next game, he's just like that momentum kind of goes down and everything. And so he's just like he's not getting that rhythm like he should. I think if Coleman would have found his rhythm that game, he'd have put up some numbers against Maryland, but he just couldn't find it that night.
Well, here's the thing. If you're an NBA team and you watch that game, how much does that affect? It's just one game, but, still, how much does it affect the way you look at Hawkins?
It damages him. It really hurts him because, the thing is when a guy that's that good has that one bad game, you're under a microscope. You are like... you see it all the time in professional sports. A highly praised starter, he just has one bad game, and then he's under a microscope for almost the rest of that season, rest of his career sometimes, where there's just like, is this guy a fraud? Is this guy legit? And so, I think it hurts him. But, if he comes into his next game and just completely dominates, he should be fine. They should be able to back off him a little bit and not focus too hard on him.
And as we said, defensively, he did struggle. The main reason for that, Julian Reese, the Badgers' 6'9" center. He had his way against Hawkins last game, scoring 20 points, getting 11 rebounds off of Hawkins, and shooting 50% from the field. If you're Hawkins and you're looking at these, type of numbers that they put up against you, you can't be too happy at all. You can't be content with your performance. It's kind of embarrassing for him because we're just not used to seeing that from him at all.
Yeah, and I was just looking to see what Coleman's was. He's 6'10". You're getting dominated by a 6'9" guy. You shouldn't be letting stuff like that happen to you. But sometimes them smaller guys, they're able to be a little more agile, especially an inch smaller. Size does matter. 6'10" guy, he can dominate the net all night long. But that 6'9" guy, he might know just a little bit more about basketball than you do. He might know just where to go at you and everything. And I mean, who knows how much film you got to realize if Coleman Hawkins is one of your top scorers, you got to realize Maryland's got him under a microscope, watching him on film, and how do we beat him? And they found how to beat him, and that was this man right here. So, it's just it's strategy, it's timing, it's everything down to it. And Julian Reese was able to do what very few have been able to.
14 Illinois. Next game will be tomorrow against Michigan. Tip-off set for 7:30 p.m. Central Time. hopefully Hawkins shows up. Hopefully Illinois gets a big win there. They'll be on the road at Deer Auburn. Now, moving a little bit to college baseball. Rem, we were talking about this earlier. The preseason rankings came out, and it's a bit of a shocker.
Yeah, it kind of is. Division I, Division III, and the NAIA have released their top 25s. Division II hasn't yet, which is kind of odd. I'm kind of waiting to see because, our neighbors across the river, Quincy University, they've always been solid baseball squad, and this is one of their first years without local boy Lance Logston. Lance from Canton here, he was a solid bat, and it's going to be interesting to see what they're able to do without him and a lot of those fifth years they had that really, won them the Great Lakes Valley Conference. And so, I'm waiting to see what Division II says for Quincy University, and I'm definitely going to watch some QU ball this year. But I'm also going to be watching very close for Division I as well. The top 5 that they put in for Division I was Wake Forest. Wake Forest is solid. They've got some solid pieces that I could see in the MLB one day. Florida down there, nice warm weather, perfect ball weather, can't go wrong there. Arkansas, some of them Southern boys, they can play some baseball, they can swing a bat. LSU is always, just a lot of Southern states. They are very solid baseball programs and everything. TCU rounds it out for baseball. Texas just, you get a lot of good ball players out of Texas too. So your top 5, they're solid. But the interesting thing is there's like 9 non-ranked teams that were added to the preseason rankings. Iowa, Texas A&M, just so many of them. Texas A&M was put in like 8th. And I'm like, wow, they must have really bolstered their roster this year if they're getting ranked up here. For the NAIA, your top 5 are Southeastern out of Florida, Georgia Gwinnett, and Lewis Clark State out of Idaho. Idaho is a weird one for me. But Lewis Clark, though, they've always been a solid baseball program out there. William Carey and LSU Shreveport, which is just, a little affiliate school of LSU. So you kind of wonder how many guys are like, oh, well, I'm not doing as good as I should. Maybe I should transfer down. And they're like, oh, you have an affiliate school that's in the NAIA. Let me go down there. And I think they even have like one in Division II or Division III. Division III, I wasn't really able to look as well because they have different regions. They have regions 1 through 10. They have 10 different regions. For Region 1, it's looking like Wheaton, Tufts, Middlebury, Colby, Amherst. So those are your top 5 in Region 1. I'm not as well endowed into Division 3, but I've heard of Wheaton, and they went 37-6 last year. So, pretty solid team out there. So it's going to be interesting to see. I'm excited for baseball this season. I love baseball. Baseball is one of my favorite sports. I'm a Missouri guy. I've cheered for St. Louis teams all my life. I used to be a big Rams guy before they moved to L.A. I was, Cardinals through and through. I'm a Blues guy. It's just but like for now, St. Louis only has 2. Now 3 because now we got the MLS, but like it's only been 2 sports, baseball and hockey, for a lot of my life that I've been alive for. We've had the Rams for a long time, but it's just now what is football?
Here's the thing for Wake Forest, I never really considered them a baseball school. In my opinion, they've always been more of a soccer dominant, type of school. Last season, however, they did show themselves out in the baseball world and the baseball spectrum type of deal, and I'm a little surprised they're ranked number 1. Not because of what they did last season, because they were just outstanding, but just because I'm not fully in with them being a baseball school. I still look at them more of a soccer school out of anything else.
Yeah, they went 54-12 last year, and I was reading earlier, some of the returns that they got, there are some guys I've heard, their names through and through, and I'm like, oh, they've got some solid talent here. So, that's probably one of the big things that's helping them out there. Last year, I think they finished 3rd, and so, they lost 2 big pieces, but, they're returning a lot, and they've got some out of the transfer portal that were pretty solid, and they're looking to win, the World Series for college baseball. So, they're definitely going to be in the discussion for a very long time.
Oh, yeah.
Vanderbilt, always been a solid baseball program. Football, Vanderbilt's a laughing stock as always. They're always last in the SEC basically, but it's like
they're not even in the top 5 for baseball this season.
Yeah, they're 6. It's interesting, which their final ranking last year was 19, so they've kind of fallen off. We'll see because they're picking up to 6, so we'll see what they've gotten this year. Texas A&M was put in at 8, so they must have really bolstered their roster. They went 38-27 last year, so they had a winning record, but they weren't ranked last year. So they must have really bolstered it up. North Carolina's been put in there. North Carolina State's in there. UC Santa Barbara is now in there. And then from 20 to 24th is not ranked teams, now ranked. You've got Iowa, Texas Tech, UCLA, Northeastern, and Kansas State all getting thrown in there. So
it's a weird one, yeah.
They're looking to prove themselves. How many of them are going to stay in the top 25? I don't know. I don't think it'll be very many.
Right.
Because, they might have gotten some solid freshmen to come in. And with baseball, you get a lot more practice in, especially with freshmen. So we'll see how the freshmen fit in. Like sports like football and stuff, you get your off season. The fall is the college football season. But afterwards, you work with your sophomores, juniors, and seniors. You don't have your freshmen for football until the fall comes around. And it's like, oh, we got to hurry up and get these guys, fitting in the groove of things if we're going to start some of them. Because you got freshmen coming in, they're like, this is a big talent we got coming in. We've got to find a way to fit him in. He's got to fit into the groove of things. Well, he doesn't have much time. Baseball, we'll see how these guys do when they come in and everything. So, Alabama, they've really dropped down. They were 10th last year, and they're dropped down to 19th. I'm big against Alabama because I'm a Mizzou guy, so, of course, I got to cheer against, other SEC schools. So,
well, and speaking of the SEC, if you're the SEC right now, you're pretty happy with the top 5 in baseball. I mean, you got 3 teams out of your conference that are ranked in the top 5. You got Florida, you got Arkansas, you got LSU. So you have to be pretty content.
Yeah, and just in the top 25, Florida, Arkansas, LSU, Vanderbilt, Texas A&M, they're in there now. Tennessee, let's see who else. Texas is in there. Alabama. You've just got all these SEC schools in the top 25. You're dominating the baseball scene right now. And so you got to be pretty happy about it. But are we going to see kind of a thing where these SEC schools get knocked out early in the playoffs or something? Kind of like what we seen with football where, there was only 2 SEC schools there. And both of them had an early round exit. Like, it's interesting to see.
For me, the SEC in baseball is kind of what the ACC is for soccer, where you just dominate the entire, not necessarily the conference, but just the entire D1 spectrum.
Yeah.
Because, SEC just dominated in baseball, as we just mentioned. ACC for soccer, it's just, if you want to go and, compete at the highest level you can in terms of conference and have a chance for the MLS draft, you want to go to the ACC. It's those types of team for soccer, and that's what we're seeing here for baseball as well.
Absolutely. So, a lot of these schools, a lot of these players, they're going to try and prove themselves this year and everything. The NAIA, it's going to be interesting to see. I mean, this is the first year without Iowa Wesleyan for baseball and softball. It's been weird this year.
A lot of schools closing.
I miss Iowa Wesleyan so much, dude. I love their unis. I love their logo. I loved everything about Iowa Wesleyan, dude. They were one of my favorite opponents. Like, if I was like, who's up next for our opponents? Iowa Wesleyan. Yeah.
Even for soccer, when I was...
Oh, they were always a solid... Dude, last year, their men's and women's basketball were in the tournament.
Yep.
And they did really good. They were really good last year. And I'm like, how does a school close like this? And it's sad to see a lot of these small colleges just closing down left and right. Our neighbors just south of us, Hannibal LaGrange, we don't know if or when they close down.
Right.
It's, every year I'm just seeing, rumors and everything. I'm like, God, I've always liked HLGU, a lot of their coaches and players, as I've had to have fun interactions with some of them whenever I'm, down there getting starting lineups, and I just sat down there and talked with them and stuff. And it's just, it really doesn't help us whatsoever. It doesn't help a lot of small colleges, and there needs to be more help for small colleges, I feel, especially in recent years, because not as many people want to go to college because trade schools are an option, and they're now becoming more prevalent. And, some of these things, like one of the things I think colleges need to start doing is applying trades as some of their majors and stuff. And, those just should not have to cost as much for tuition. That's one of the ways I see small colleges being able to save themselves. But, there's just much more about it, too, that they need to do to save themselves.
Well, hopefully Hannibal LaGrange doesn't shut down over there. For us, we'll shut down here today. It's been a great episode, Rem. It's been a pleasure having you along. It's been amazing first episode here. First we got Seth, then we got you here. So, yeah, just thank you for joining me.
You guys got Leo Ortiz.
Yeah.
Sunday we're recording that episode, I think.
Yep, Sunday we're recording a Leo Ortiz women's basketball player.
Yeah, we'll try and get this video edited and out as soon as possible so that people know. Because if this one comes out a little late, people ain't going to know.
Yep.
Yeah, we'll do our best.
So, yeah, we're excited. We should be, keep posting these episodes once a week at the bare minimum. So, like I said, it's been a pleasure, Rem. First episode in the books. We look to seeing you guys for the second episode. Thank you guys so much for joining us here at Off the Bench with Esteban Velez. Have a good one.